things are going to work smoothly, because, boy, they never don't, right? So let me turn down the music a little bit and have a little chat with you here. So this is Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore. Welcome to the MuseScore Café. And yeah, please pop into the chat here and check in and let me know if things are okay. Let me know where you're coming from. Just let me know that we're live. So thanks, and thanks, Jeff. So this is my regular weekly series, where I talk about some aspect of using MuseScore. Today's a little different. It's going to be a little less about using MuseScore, although we'll I'm sure touch on some things. Mostly, I want to show you where to find more information on using MuseScore, and give you a little bit of a tiny bit of a preview of MuseScore 4. Mostly not because it's actually really, really ready for testing or anything, but because we are starting to talk about putting the documentation together for it, and we want to get people to help create this documentation. MuseScore is open source, and that applies to the documentation as well. And I'm kind of organizing this effort, or helping organize the effort. So welcome to everyone who is checking in here. And yeah, so what I want to do is give you a brief tour, I'll say, of some of the help resources that are already available. Talk a little bit about how they go. If you all have ones that are your favorites too, YouTube channels you found useful, you can post links now, because right when we were on YouTube, you couldn't post links. Now you can. So that's one of the little perks of being here in the community, is the chat's a little more useful. Yay, Michael, you found us. Yay. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna post a few links. So the first thing I will post, I'm just gonna post links, and I will apologize that I'll have to flip over to here periodically, where you'll see the whole telescoping thing here. So the first link is just the generic MuseScore website. This is not MuseScore.com, right? MuseScore.com is where you can go and share scores, but MuseScore.org is where you downloaded the software from. You might not remember that that's where you went, but that is where you originally downloaded the software from. And so that's there under Download Software. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because when we talk about MuseScore 4. But under the Support menu, this is where most of the really interesting help resources that we provide are. So under the Support menu, the main thing is the Handbook. And so I actually already have that pulled up here, and I'm going to post that in to the link and to the chat. The Handbook is actually also, you get to directly from within MuseScore, right? If you're within MuseScore, you can say Help, Online Handbook, and that will just open up that exact same page. The Online Handbook is the official documentation for MuseScore, and this is all community supported, right? This is a community effort building MuseScore. Everything about MuseScore is a community effort. So this has been written by many people over many years, and it's constantly being updated and edited, and it's, meant to be always up to date and as complete as can be. So this handbook is divided up into a bunch of different sections, and you can also get a PDF version of it if you want. See where it says download and print the handbook over here? That will let you get a PDF you can print. I recommend going through the beginning section here, basics. If you're relatively new to MuseScore, and probably most of you are not that new, but I know a lot of people really don't go to the handbook that often, and I want to encourage it, because it's really good documentation for the most part. When I say for the most part, it has a little bit of it wasn't designed by one person, right? It's written by a bunch of people, so different people, different viewpoints. So the organization of the material could be better. And this is where we're improving for MuseScore 4. But for MuseScore 3, if you this is what is here, I definitely recommend going through this basics chapter and just reading everything in it at least once, and then you'll know kind of what's there. And then all the rest of it is all here, all the rest of the stuff in the handbook to cover more I don't know, more esoteric topics and things. And so you will generally eventually find answers to just about anything you want in the handbook. So Colleen, you're asking if it's different from my book. Yeah, it's different in a couple of ways. So my book, for those of you who haven't seen it before, is this. This book is now 7 years old. Yeah, 7 years old. I updated it a couple of times for MuseScore 2.1, I think. 2.05 maybe and 2.1, but it is now at least 5 years out of date. So there's a ton of new features, a ton of things that have changed over the last 7 years that are not in the book. So yeah, and welcome to Dave and Joanne and everyone else just checking in here, Francois. So yeah, unfortunately the book, as you see, it says make beautiful music with MuseScore 2. So it is definitely quite outdated. A lot of things are still the same. It's still good information, but it's quite outdated. So the handbook is much more up to date, but it's not as well organized. My book, I think, I organized pretty well. And this was something that was sort of a deliberate decision when we released MuseScore 2, that, okay, the handbook was going to continue to be this free community developed thing, but we wanted there to be a really professionally done source of information. And the book that I wrote became that thing. But at some point, it became difficult to keep updating it. And the feedback we were getting is people really wanted videos and they wanted a different approach than a book. And a book is impossible to keep up to date. Once you buy the book, it's, as a new version of MuseScore comes, I can't just send you updates, right? So unfortunately, the book became like out of date, and I made the conscious decision not to update it for MuseScore 3. So instead, what I did is I took what was in the book, the organization that I had imparted to it, and made that my my online course. So if I go to, let's see, do I have? See, I'm still in the course. I'm still always changing things around as far as how I try to present stuff here. But here's the link directly to my online course. So for most of you, this is what I would be recommending. If you haven't already enrolled, then my online course is the most up-to-date, the best organized, the just generally speaking, best way to learn MuseScore is my online course. And I say that because I got to say that I'm me. Everyone's going to say that about their own course, right? Do I need to justify why I think I can get away with saying that? I'm one of the developers of the program. I've been working on this thing for 10, 12 years now. I've been working on MuseScore, 11 and a half. Yeah, there's not anyone who knows this program better than me, and that's why you're here, because I know what I'm talking about. So if I put together a course and call it Mastering MuseScore, it really does get you there, right? And it's when I say it's complete, it's complete. It covers, it really covers everything in quite some amount of detail. I say that despite the fact that the one thing, I don't cover things that are a little outside the scope of MuseScore, like plugins that are user contributed. I can't document every single one of those. And there's a couple of things like real-time MIDI input that's I sort of link you to another video where I think someone else who has a good MIDI setup is able to show it better than me. There's a couple specific things where I sort of defer to someone else. But yeah, no. for pretty much everything here, this course is where you learn MuseScore. So there are other resources that you should know about, though. And so I want to show you a couple other things. So if we come back to the handbook, okay, I'll give you a quick tour of the course just for people who haven't seen it. If you actually go into the course, well, you'll see the curriculum I show you here. This is organized in like everything having to do with entering notes and rests is all gathered together. So here's chords, here's ties, here's rests, tuplets, here's MIDI input, here's grace notes, right? Everything having to do with notes and rests is in here. Everything having to do with then editing after you've already entered the music and you're like, oh, how do I change this quarter note to an eighth note? How do I change this B to a C? How do I copy this passage over there? That stuff is all in this section. And then anything having to do with adding new measures, changing the length of measures, anything having to do with measures I have together, things having to do with clefs, etc. Everything is organized. And if you look at the length of these videos, they're not these hour-long sprawling cafe things. It's 4 minutes on how to customize clefs, just boom, right there. 6 minutes on everything you need to know for the most part about clefs, and 4 additional minutes on customization. So I try to really focus these things so you can just get the information you need. So that's kind of how this thing is set up. Now, as you can see, there are dozens. I mean, I think there was there was 90 when I started, and I kept adding to it as new features got added, or as I realized things needed to get split into multiple lessons. There's well over 100 lessons in here at this point. So that is, again, your absolute like complete resource for everything. But there are some free tutorials that MuseScore provides that are really interesting and useful. And I want to talk about briefly because they are being updated finally. These tutorials, if you go to MuseScore.org, under the support menu, you'll see tutorials. And you see there's 11 tutorials here. These tutorials are, how would I put it? They are useful even though they are out of date. For instance, here's the one on note input. And it'll play in the little thing here, but you can also make it full screen. And the first thing you'll see here is that this, well, it's got its own little music to it, right? Dr. George Hess is a pretty well-known music educator who put these together, and they are based on MuseScore 2. So they are also out of date, but they are not. They're mostly just covering the basics of MuseScore, and not that much about the basics has changed since MuseScore 2. So I think you'll find that these MuseScore in minutes are actually quite useful. So these getting started videos, these are the MuseScore in minutes series from Dr. George Hess. And so I mention these because even though they're out of date, they're still useful. But for MuseScore 4, we are updating these. And now when I say we, this is not me. This is the official core team. So the thing to understand about MuseScore is that it's always been a core team of people who are the main developers, and then other people who are community members who assist. And that's always been my role. I've been one of the main community people. I haven't been one of the core people. Original, it was one person, Werner Schwer, and then it was Werner, Thomas, and Nicola. And now it's some other people. It's Martin and Bradley and some other people that are kind of the core team of people that are in charge of the direction of MuseScore. And it's, in particular, a guy named Bradley is now kind of in charge of the overall design. I don't even know how to describe what his role is because I don't really know these things. But Bradley is helping me. We are working together on the organization of the new MuseScore 4 handbook, but also he is producing an updated version of these tutorials. So it won't just be these exact same 11 tutorials updated for MuseScore 4, but it's going to be a similar kind of vibe. Like you see that this here is one lesson on node input, and what was it? It was 3 minutes long. I don't even know if it's showing me how long it is. It's 4.5 minutes long. Well, you can't learn everything about node input in only 4 minutes. You can learn a lot, but you can't learn everything, right? And you can't get it in a lot of detail. That's why in my course, I have it kind of separated out. Let me have a video on ties. Let me have a video on whatever else. So this is like a reduced down version of things. And that's also what's going to be in MuseScore 4. But I'm going to do an updated version of my course as well. But the handbook for MuseScore 4 is going to be completely overhauled, and it's going to be more like the structure of my course, more like the structure of my book, with some additional improvements. So it's going to be greatly improved. So what I want to do at this point is kind of flip over to talking about MuseScore 4, because I know a lot of people are very interested in this, and you've seen only brief snippets of it from me, but I think it's time to see it more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close down MuseScore 3, because on my system, at least, they sometimes compete for the same audio device and get in each other's way a little bit. So I find MuseScore 4 runs a little more smoothly if I don't have MuseScore 3 running at the same time, and vice versa. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start MuseScore. I'm going to start. Let me think about this. Am I doing this the way I want? Okay, this is going to be, I think I don't want to do that -D. Okay, I'm thinking about like my scaling. I have all this stuff going on with different monitor resolutions and all, and I'm running this test version of MuseScore, and I don't want to mess things up a little bit. So I want to make sure when I run this thing, it looks like it should work, like it'll look for you. All right, so when you run MuseScore, this is what you're going to see. So already you can see it looks a little different, right? Looks somewhat different. I mean, it's pretty familiar. You got a menu at the top: edit, view, add, format, tools, plugins, help. Diagnostic, I think you'll only see because this is a test version. I don't think you'll see that for real. You see the palettes over here on the left. What you don't see is the inspector on the right, but you do see there's properties over here and instruments here. Properties is what used to be the inspector. Instruments is something that used to be kind of buried in a menu, and now it's going to be available here. So basically a lot of the same things. You can see the main toolbar there, but it's grayed out because I'm just starting MuseScore for the first time, and it's asking me some questions, just like it does in MuseScore 3. And one of the things that's going to ask you now is, do you want to use the dark theme? I'm not hugely a fan of dark themes personally. That's just me. But I know a lot of people are. So right now, by default, we are not going with the dark theme. We'll start in the light theme, but we're making it really easy to switch to the dark theme, and all the screenshots in the handbook are going to be in the dark theme, which seems like an odd choice to me, given that we're not defaulting to it, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm not going to use the dark theme for now. I'm just going to leave as is. Oh, you can also choose accent colors, whether you want to see like buttons and things in pink instead of blue, or whatever color you want to call that. There will be a place here where you can download our what's called the Muse Symphony Orchestra library. This is going to be brand new, greatly improved sounds in MuseScore 4. They're not there yet, but they will be. So that will be a place where you can download those. They'll be completely free, but they're just a separate download, because otherwise it'll be a longer download for MuseScore, and the whole open source licensing thing requires it to be a separate deal for some reason. They're still free though, not to worry. So when I hit next, this is where it will show me the updated tutorials. So those George Hess MuseScore in Minutes tutorials, this is where those will be. not those, but the updated versions of them. So they will be in here. So there's getting started ones, there's advanced ones, supposedly, and then there's classes, of which there's me. There's me without the beard, right? Y'all think, those of you who've been following the cafe, I started without, had the beard back, shaved it, had it back again. At this point, I think it's staying, so I'm probably going to update the pictures. But that picture was not that long ago. People look at that and say, "Oh my God, that picture was from 20 years ago." No, that picture was like 4 years ago. 5 years ago, but still not that long ago. So anyhow, you'll be able to get to the Mastering MuseScore course from here. So this is all in this learn section here. And so this whole overall flow when you start is changed a little bit, but it's just the one-time thing, not to worry. Click over here where it says scores, and you'll see something that looks like the Start Center used to, right? It shows you whatever recent scores you've opened up and lets you open new scores from here. So bring so yes, yes, absolutely. Let me give you this link here. I meant to do that. Sorry, Dave. So in the on MuseScore.org, when you go to download and then software, let me just do that. Download software. This is where you normally download MuseScore. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. You'll see development builds, and then nightly builds download page. And this is all, by the way, on the forum. So back to well, let me put this on hold for a second. Again, remember that when we were looking at that support menu, there was Handbook, tutorials that we looked at. There's also forum, right? And the forum is where the sort of official support, such as it is for MuseScore, it's all user-based support. And there's an announcements forum here. And if you go to the announcements forum, you'll see here is an announcement that we are seeking contributions for, not financial contributions, but actual technical contributions for the MuseScore 4 handbook. And you will see the announcement of the first alpha released, and that was 2 months ago. So it's been for 2 months that you've been able to download test versions if you want. The original alpha version from 2 months is now 2 months old. So now we don't want people to download that anymore. We want you to go to the nightly build page, and that's what is linked in here. So this link here takes you exactly to the same place as this. So on this page here, you see it says development builds of MuseScore. Again, I got there from the main MuseScore.org page, download software, and then scroll down to development builds, and then nightly builds download page. That's how I got here. So here you can see MuseScore 4.x master, and you're going to want to download the one that says nightly. Don't get fooled by the one that says beta. I can't emphasize this enough. This beta version is not a beta version. This is an ancient pre-release version from a year ago that is only marked as beta because the website that we're actually on here, OSU, it's Oregon State University, they only have 2 ways of showing things, and it's either a nightly or a beta, and that was an older version that was created as a special for a particular reason. Do not touch the beta. It is ancient. It won't work. It will crash. It shouldn't be there. So grab the one that says nightly. So either the Windows nightly, the Linux nightly, or the Mac OS nightly. And it will, for Windows, it downloads a zip file. You unzip it, and you'll see the exe file. I don't know how it works for Mac OS. For Linux, if I click on nightly, you'll see it downloads the app image itself, which is what you normally do for Linux. You run the app image, so it'll download that. So this is what I am now running here, is that nightly. I just downloaded one this morning. So this is the nightly build. So this is all the changes as of yesterday. They build a new version every night, and this is the version that got built built last night. So whatever bug fixes that were made yesterday are in here. Whatever new features were added yesterday, they are in here. So, so this list, you'll see at the top here, well, the top is the main menu. The next thing we have is this bar here, Home, Score, Publish, DevTools. To be honest, this stuff is still in progress. It's still a work in progress. There's essentially nothing useful on this Home tab other than this like thing that's basically the Start Center. You're going to want to go to the Score tab. And once you're there, you'll stay there. You won't ever leave it. And next time you start MuseScore, it'll go there. You won't have to deal with this every time. This is to help users, get new users see those tutorial videos, to help them see some bigger picture stuff. But you guys just want to get to work. You've already been using MuseScore. Just go to the Score tab and you're good. And now we're in regular old MuseScore, right? I mean, yes, it's a new version. So here we are now in this new version, and as you can see, one thing is it didn't open a score by default. In MuseScore 3, there would be an empty score that you would see by default. So far, the decision is not to do that for MuseScore 4, but you saw that there was going to be that thing where it says, this is what you will see when you first open MuseScore. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's click where it says New Score, shall we? Let's click a new score. So now I get to either choose instruments, and this window has been redesigned. So here's where I want to say there's a lot of things about MuseScore 4 that are not changed at all. They're identical to how they were before. Maybe just a slightly, a different font or whatever. But there's a few things that have been redesigned. This window is one of them. Everything having to do with how you choose your instruments and create your new score and rearrange your instruments, that has been redesigned to hopefully be simpler. That's the goal. Based on a lot of tests with a lot of users who were really confused by how things worked before. And then Martin did a whole lot of tests and redesigns and new tests. And this has tested much better with all the new users that Martin has tested this with. Martin being Tentacruel, for the people who know him by that handle. He is the head of all things related to MuseScore. Bradley's the person in charge of more user interface stuff specifically. So the two of them have worked together on some of this stuff. So choosing instruments, this window has been redesigned, but it's not that different really. So if I want to create a score from a template, I'm going to click here where it says create from template. And now you can see treble clef, bass clef, grand staff. Let's go ahead and do grand staff, shall we? And again, if I say next, I can pick a key signature, a time signature, a tempo, how many measures, give it a title, give it this other stuff, right? You might remember that used to be four or five, I think 4 separate screens. Title was one, choosing instruments was one, and choosing instruments could possibly be 2, and then there was key signature, and then there was time signature. Yeah, it was like 5 separate screens. Now it's basically just the 2. So this is where you can select all this stuff. And I'll just go with all these defaults, but I'll go ahead and give it a title. My MuseScore 4 demo. And I'll put in my name because why not? And I'll say done. So here is my score. So this is my score here, and I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So not hugely different from how things were in MuseScore 3. I'm going to do a much more full walkthrough of MuseScore 4 once the next milestone is reached. So you all saw when I was there in the announcement forum that there was the alpha release, right? It was, how was it worded? It said first alpha released. This release was a very low-key alpha. We didn't do a big publicity blitz on it. Basically, it was just announced in the forum, and that was it. And the only way to download it at the time was to create an account on GitHub, which is where the MuseScore source code is. It was really only meant for other developers to download and give feedback on. It wasn't meant for ordinary users. So now we're getting close to what's going to be a second alpha. The second alpha is going to be the one that we're going to say, all right, we are now done implementing new features. There's still things that don't work right, but it's usable enough and it's basically settled enough that we want people to start testing. And so we're going to have a second alpha release, and I don't know when. I'm going to guess it's more than a week, but less than a month. More than a week, less than a month. That's my guess. Probably closer to a week than a month. That's just a guess. I don't know. So sometime within the next week or 2 or 3 or 4, there will be the second alpha release. And then sometime after that will be a beta release. Sometime after that will be the actual MuseScore 4. If I had to, if we were doing a pool to bet on what month we thought MuseScore 4 would actually be released, my money would be September, but I could easily be off by a month or 2 in either direction. No, it will not happen in July. I won't be off by 2 months. Could it be at the end of August? Sure, it could. Could it be in October or November? Yeah, it could. But I'll guess September for the final actual MuseScore 4 release. Just a guess. All right, so we are not quite at this public alpha, this second alpha. So when we do hit that is when I'm going to do a lot more talking about MuseScore 4, specifically what the new features are, what the changes are, how things work. But as you can see, it looks different, but it's quite similar. We still have palettes over here. We still have your score here. We still have a toolbar here. A lot of stuff's basically the same. There's some nice new additions, like now you can see you can add a slur directly from the toolbar as well as a tie, and it's maybe a little more clear what the difference is between a slur and a tie here, because they're both in the same place right next to each other. You can now add the most common articulations directly from the toolbar. So yeah, there's some slight improvements there. There's palettes here, instruments here. This is where you would add new instruments instead of having to go to the menu to do it. Yeah, a lot of changes in how things are worked with the instruments that I'll get into. The other kind of big changes, as I said, the inspector has been renamed properties, and it's designed to be more useful now by I don't know, reorganizing how things work. Like right now, nothing is selected in my score, and it's giving me some useful options, like getting me directly to page settings dialog, right? Or getting me directly to the style settings dialog, which the style settings dialog is essentially unchanged, but you can get there directly from properties. But as soon as you select something, now you see stuff, right, where you can do things. But look, there's commands in here, useful commands like, oh, maybe you want to insert measures. Based on what you've selected, it tries to guess what you might want to do. If I select an actual rest, well, there's almost no settings for rest, but if I under appearance though, here's where I can select all sorts of different settings for rests. But if I select a time signature, now these are the settings for that time signature, right? But I can also select multiple things. If I select multiple measures, remember, it used to be if you selected multiple measures, all the settings disappeared. You couldn't do anything with multiple things selected. But now you can. So if I have both notes and rests selected, my appearance settings don't go away. I can still access whatever settings that I want that apply to notes, and they will apply to those notes, even though I've also got other things selected. That's kind of the big improvement as far as the reorganization of the properties panel, is that it will better handle things like making a whole selection, and you won't have that nothing selected or that thing where only a few things show up in the inspector because you've selected a whole range. So yeah, it looks different, but essentially works the same way. All right, so you've seen a little bit of MuseScore 4. Will it be possible to open a 4.0 score in 3.6? So remember I showed you that beta? The beta was a version that was designed to bridge the gap. where if you could take a score in MuseScore 4, open it in that version, save it, and then it would reopen in 3.6. But no, overall, no, it will not be possible. We have again made too many changes to the file format. So you can continue to export to music XML and import that way, but the number of improvements to how things are working with instruments and so forth is such that it required changes to the file format that it's, you can't get it back in a MuseScore 3 other than exporting. But MuseScore 3 files open in MuseScore 4 just fine. So that continues to be perfectly possible. I now want to talk about the documentation specifically for MuseScore 4. Okay, so let's first go to the help menu, because I haven't actually done this. All right, it looks a whole lot like the MuseScore 3 help menu, and I don't actually even know what happens. So in MuseScore 3, if I picked ask for help, it would go to the forum. I don't know that anyone ever normally did this as their way of getting to the support forum. But yeah, it takes you directly to the create forum topic screen here. I think you could tell when people did that, because then later on they couldn't find their own posts because they didn't know how else to get to the forum other than by using that option in the menu. So in hindsight, that menu item was not well thought out, and we should rethink it. And maybe I'll still suggest it. So in any case, but this if I fill out this form, it will create a post in the support forum. So that's not changed. So that was ask for help. Report a bug, I think, does a similar thing. It basically creates an issue in the issue tracker. And we may or may not continue using this issue tracker. We might start using GitHub to track it. I mean, we already are internally, but I think it's yet to be decided, and it will be decided by the time this next alpha comes out. So for now, at least, report a bug will put you here and let you submit a bug report. So that is there. Online handbook. I am not positive if this is going to take me to the MuseScore 3 handbook or the MuseScore 4 handbook, but let's find out. Looks like, oh my gosh, handbook for MuseScore 2. Oh man, that's lame. Okay, well, that obviously needs to be fixed. In fact, I'm going to show you one other support resource right now. Those of you who are on Discord, we have a server for MuseScore. We use it internally for development discussions, but there is now a kind of informal MuseScore support channel here. So if you find, and I don't know how Discord works, to be honest, I don't use it normally, but yeah, if you find your way to the MuseScore server or whatever you call it, I don't even know what they're called, channel, server, whatever they're called. Now, I guess the channels are the things underneath it. So whatever this is, the MuseScore thing on Discord, once you find your way there, you'll find a support channel, and it's a chat where you can ask questions here. It is not very active. It isn't necessarily something I specifically recommend, but this is also where development things happen. And I'm going to put in a little note right here. That help online handbook in MU4 points to MU2. Okay, so then that's instead of submitting a whole bug report, just posting there is a quick little note for other developers who might want to think about doing something about that. So this isn't what we want. The MuseScore 4 handbook, the way you're going to get there is, let's come back to the forum here. Let's go back to musescore.org, support, forum, and then under announcements, right here where it says MuseScore 4 handbook update, contributions sought. Blah, 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 blah. All right, online handbook available here on MuseScore.org. So here, and that's Bradley I mentioned, is kind of the official team member who's, you know, an actual MuseScore employee, unlike me. He's kind of coordinating the effort, and I'm doing, you know, a lot of the work as well. And Peter Jonas also is, he's kind of the in charge of things having to do with the technical aspect of the programming of how the handbook all gets put together. So let's go ahead and click there where it says available here on MuseScore.org. Here we go. This is the MuseScore 4 handbook now. So I'm going to go ahead and post this link into the chat. MuseScore 4 handbook, boom. So here's the MuseScore 4 handbook, and I feel like coffee. So the MuseScore 4 handbook, you know, it's still on MuseScore.org. The style and formatting and so forth is not that different from the. So in fact, let's go to. If I just go to support handbook here, it's going to take me to the MuseScore 3 handbook, and let's, you know, compare and contrast. Here's the MuseScore 3 handbook. Here is the Here is the MuseScore 4 handbook. So to compare them right off the bat, they're not hugely different, right? I mean, the overall vibe of the thing is similar. But now let's talk about what the differences actually are. If you look at the MuseScore 3 handbook, the first thing you'll see is a long, long list of all the different topics. And they are divided up by category, but not in what I would call an intelligent way. Between what's in getting started and what's in basics, it's not well designed. Notation has a whole lot of things in it, some of which are basic and some of which are really obscure. And then there's sound and playback, and there's text. Is text not notation? It's separate enough, I guess, that it gets its own thing. And then there's random things that are just scattered wherever they're at. It's not organized all that well. So I say this as someone who has responded to and read many discussions on the forum where people are having trouble finding things, and also we've tested with new users. So between me and Bradley and Peter and Martin, I would say mostly me and Bradley, mostly Bradley, well, no, mostly me and Bradley, we'll say 50-50-ish. We went ahead and reorganized how this works. So what you'll see now on the Handbook 4 page is not an overwhelming list of things, but bullets of the big picture things. Some of this might get changed as we move along and get feedback from people, but right now this is what we're looking at. This first section is just called editing the handbook. Well, that's not useful for most people. Oh, by the way, there will always be buttons here that just basically take you to the next page. So you can just keep clicking the bottom right to go to the next page if you want to just read the whole handbook in order. And there will be a way to download a PDF of it. We just don't have that together yet. Okay, so I'll skip editing the handbook. Let's go to the first main section here, Introduction to MuseScore. It's going to show you how to download, where the new features are, and there's a section, Create Your First Score. Create Your First Score tells you how to create the score, how to enter some notes, and boom. Just gets you started real quick, like in a couple of minutes of doing some stuff. So yeah, this one page is like a really good starting point for a lot of people. Let's back up. Then we have a whole section called Viewing and Navigation, and here we have a whole section on accessibility, a section on the user interface, section on navigating your score, a whole page just on the timeline because there's so much to it. Our goal is to have no single page of the handbook be too long. So trying to put the time, even though timeline is a method of navigating, it was like a whole separate discussion that just, it seemed like it was going to make more sense to separate it out. So that's what we've done. So I'm showing you these individual pages so that you can kind of get a sense of where things are. We want to not overwhelm you with too much stuff on one page. That's one of the guiding principles of this handbook. The guiding principle is, hey, let's look at a relatively short list of things that you can then say, hey, I'm looking for information on such and such a topic. Then you can look at this relatively short list to figure out where that thing might be. And then go to that thing and then drill down to find the thing. Now we're going to have a search facility. We're going to have multiple ways of finding the information, but the goal is to have things split up and organized in a way that helps with finding stuff. The reality is it's still going to take some effort. It's still going to take some effort. I don't know how to prevent that. But I'm going to show you something that I've put together that I'm going to make available myself as part of my course. I have written a little plugin here. Where is my plugin? That's not it. I guess I got to come over here. Where's my plugin? I got to re-download my plugin, I guess. I'll deal with it later. But I created a browser plugin to generate a full index. And it's so weird that it disappeared, though, because I had it installed, but must have been a browser update that uninstalled it again. Anyhow, my plugin is my browser plugin will generate an entire outline showing all the headings and things. That's like even a better search mechanism, and I'll make that available as part of my website. So what we are doing right now is we have gone through, let me just check in the chat real quick here, see if there's stuff I need to address here. Okay, good. What we have done is we have created all this structure. So you see that we've, like, instead of notation being one big thing, we've now divided it up to instrument, staves, and systems, rhythm, meter, and measures, pitch, expressive markings, so we divided it up into all these different categories of things. And if we go now under expressive markings, you'll see articulations, dynamics, hairpins, etc. You'll see all these different things. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think text under basics, we probably have some discussion of, so some stuff is still in this section called basics. This is still the section we want people to kind of read once all the way through. That's still my recommendation, is that we would read this once all the way through. So we've set up all this. It's not just the old handbook rearranged, but we've combined sections, like things that used to be in two different sections where we thought, no, these two should be combined. Or places where we talked about too much stuff in one section, we've split it up into two different sections. We've moved pages from section to section. We did a ton of organization. And we wrote some stuff like this. If I click on setting up your score, you'll see this section is done. So some stuff is done already, but a lot of it's not. If I go under entering notes and rests, what you'll see is I've entered the headings here: overview, entering rests, selecting duration, selecting pitch, but it's not ready yet, right? This is a page now where we are wanting someone to go in and actually do it. So this is a page where we have set up the framework for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and post this one in here, so that y'all can check this out. A typical page awaiting your contribution. Now, I say this, but I don't want like 10 people to all try to write this page, because then we'll have 10 people all writing the same page, and then they're going to clobber each other, right? So right now, there's not an organized system for avoiding that. So go to the forum. If you want to get involved, go to the forum and maybe start a discussion and mention what you're going to work on. And the place to do that, by the way, is not in that announcements forum, but let me come back. Support. Actually, let's go to another place, shall we? I'm going to go to support, forum, documentation. Here's where you might discuss things. So someone is glossary clefs. All right, and so he's discussing, something, a particular thing about this. Yeah, so that anytime you have a question about something you're editing or are thinking about editing or whatever, come to this documentation forum, the documentation forum, and then you can either add discussion to something that's already there or add a new forum topic and say, hey, I'm interested in working on this particular page. Anyone have any thoughts about that? And just sort of check in with people. It's not a very formalized system. Or you can come over to Discord, and if you're on Discord and have that same discussion. We don't have a documentation channel here. We probably should, but if you come here where it says general, maybe that's a place to have the thing. So there you go. There's not a formalized process for this, but if two people try to check in changes to the same page, it keeps track of all of them. So let me talk about that process a little bit. I've just given you the link to this page, and as you can see, it doesn't have, and some of them might look emptier than this. This one, I put in these bullet points so that you could kind of get a sense of what you're supposed to enter. I probably put too much information in here. It looks like it's, oh, someone already did this page. But then when you look at it, you realize, no, they didn't. Let me show you how you edit the page. You're going to come to this ... menu over here, and you're going to click it. And then where it says edit, you're going to edit it. And you now get a window where you can edit what this thing says. This is called Markdown. For people who haven't used Markdown before, it's designed to be an easily typable and human readable form of markup. It's just a pun on the word markup. Like HTML, the M stands for markup, I think. Hypertext markup language. But if any of you have ever looked at HTML, it's ugly. No one wants to read HTML. If you haven't seen HTML before, hey, let's look at some HTML. This is what HTML looks like, and it's a programming language. This doesn't look. The only part that looked easy to read was this part in here, and this is this is the Markdown part. So Markdown is designed to be easily human readable and easily writable. So 2 hashtags like that, that's like a level 2 heading. 3 hashtags, level 3 heading. When I write star and then a thing, this will turn into a bullet list. And then text, you don't need to put angle bracket P around paragraphs. You just type paragraphs. So this is where you will actually type your stuff. So here's where you say the steps to enter notes are blah blah blah, etc. When you go to the in fact, let me get. I should put that announcement back there because it's got some good instructions in it. So let me post this link. Back in the chat. I need to come here. Links and instructions. There we go. Did I get it? Hello. So I know people have said before, sometimes chats don't seem to show up here, and I'm seeing that. Are other people just seeing that chat? Hello? Huh. So for whatever reason, those chats I just did disappeared, and people have said that they've seen that before, so I'm not going to freak. I'm just going to say that's just a glitch, and glitches happen. But anyhow, that's where you want to go. is go to that announcement forum and find here. You'll find information on how to contribute. It's got all these detailed instructions on creating an account if you haven't done that, how to get to the editing thing, and a link to more information about Markdown and so forth. So in here, you will do this stuff, and it tells you, like, gives you advice on things like how to do steps. We want you to use lists of steps. We want you to use images, and we've got guidelines on all that stuff. We want to make good use of images, but also keep accessibility in mind. And remember, a picture is only worth 1,000 words if you can see it, right? And we want to support blind users, and we want to make sure that all the handbook pages have text descriptions that describe everything and focus on how to do everything with a keyboard, but also use some images to give a quick show me how to do this for people who respond better to looking at pictures than reading text. So we want to address the needs of all users in all of this. And all this stuff is talked about in that article or in the other links that the article contains. So this is my spiel. We are looking for people to help write these pages. That's the bottom line here. We have, so I'm not going to save this, but if I did this, if I then hit the save button, it would save my changes. And you can put in a little log message that says added blah, 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 so that later on we can track that. So I'm not going to track those changes. I'm just going to hit the back button. If I then go back to this ... menu and you see revisions here, this is where you will see a list of all the changes that got made. And here's where you can see all the edits that got made. So if you make an edit, your edit will show up here. And then if later on we're like, we want to go back and revisit some of your changes, I can come back and re-edit your change. If two people create two versions that clobber each other, we can get back to each of them individually, merge them together. We can do all sorts of stuff because the system keeps track of each revision. So you don't have to worry too much about screwing things up. So that's basically what's going on here. And I am a little concerned still that I wasn't able to paste into that chat. So I do want to just try this again. Link to announcement and instructions. And there it is. Okay, so if you didn't see it before, now you got it now. So there are about 100 pages, separate pages. And by pages, I mean this. This is a page. Yes, yes, you got to scroll, so it might be 2 screenfuls of information, but this is a page. It is a page called Entering Notes and Rests. There's links within it that just take you to places within the page, right? If I click here where it says Entering Rests, it just takes me down to that place within the page. This is a page called Entering Notes and Rests. There's a separate page called Ties. No, Ties is under that same page, actually, because we wanted this page to be, pretty much everything you need to know about Entering Notes and Rests as one page. So that is a page. If we jump into here where it says, say, text, there's a whole chapter on text, and here's a chapter on tempo markings, or page on tempo markings. This is a page. And again, we've given you the headings. It's all set up, waiting for you to just, edit it and add the real stuff, add the real screenshots and the real explanation. So there are, once you drill down to all these things, you'll find about 100 of these pages. And what we're figuring is, well, gee, if we get like 20 people to help with this and everyone does like 5 pages, it's done in a month. That's the theory. So I'm doing this whole session here so that people can think about getting involved. I know some of you who are watching live are probably like, well, I'm not ready for that, but I also spread the word a little further, and some people will probably watch this replay and hopefully find this useful. this is what we're looking for, people to help us write the handbook. So again, getting back to some of the stuff I said at the beginning, we want this to be a well-organized handbook, better organized than MuseScore 3's handbook was. So we've really gone to the trouble of setting up all these chapters and pages and putting in all these headings so that things are, all you have to do is then fill in the blanks is the idea. We've put a lot of thought into the organization of this so that it should work out pretty well. People just go in and add text and some screenshots. We should be good to go. So that is my spiel. And I am going to mention as a kind of concluding remark, I am starting now to work on my MuseScore 4 course. And I've decided I'm going to keep it separate from the MuseScore 3 course because MuseScore 4 is different enough from MuseScore 3. I don't want to like redo I am going to redo everything, but I'm going to keep them both available. So for people who are like, yeah, I'm not ready for MuseScore 4 yet, I'll still have the MuseScore 3 course available. And anyone who already bought the MuseScore 4 course, we'll talk about a migration path for you to get you to MuseScore 4 and all that. We'll make that work for you. So I'm going to have a course, and my course I'm going to try to keep connected to the handbook as well as I can to make it really easy to move back and forth between them, so that if you search for something in my course, you can also find the corresponding information in the handbook and vice versa. I'm really going to try to make everything work just as smoothly as possible, make everything be as searchable as possible to make it easy to find information. So yes, there's not a search facility on that handbook yet, but there will be in my course. There will be something in the handbook probably, but there definitely will be in my course, ability to search for things. And yeah, we're really excited at the possibilities that we're seeing for improving the documentation story in MuseScore 4, and we want you to help. That is my spiel again. So thanks those of you who stuck around for this, and I'm going to close out by not trying to listen to, because the playback is still not totally working in it works. You can hear. I think you heard that C when I entered it, but if I tried to actually play the MuseScore Cafe, it sounds wonky because the playback stuff is still a work in progress, and that's the main thing holding up the MuseScore Alpha is the new playback stuff isn't there yet. So I'm loading MuseScore 3 just so we can hear our theme song again, because I will miss it if I don't get to hear it when we close out. So I want to thank everyone for being here, for checking out what's going on here. The replay will be available on YouTube, and I'll make sure I post links to that so that people can easily find it if you're interested in helping with MuseScore 4 documentation. And one of the reasons I wanted to show the big picture, so you could really see how the handbook fits into the overall scheme. We've got the support forum, we've got those tutorials, we've got my course, we've got all these different things. The handbook serves as the central definitive, the single source of truth is a term that sometimes gets used in the business as the place where the real information about MuseScore is used, and then everything else is built on top of that. So we want the MuseScore 4 handbook to be that single source of truth, to be the official way to get information and make it be as good as possible, but still my course, I think, will be the best way to really learn it. The handbook makes a good reference. My course will be designed to be the hands-on, here's how to actually go about learning it now. All right, so that's the story, and next week we'll be back with more MuseScore Café. We'll be back to kind of a more normal format of me showing you doing stuff within MuseScore as opposed to showing you websites and stuff like that. And what week are we on now? Are we in... Where are we in I don't even know where the heck we are in the month. So I have to think about that and what that means in terms of what week. Oh, we're towards the end of the month, and next, what is next month? I don't even know. I'm trying to get my phone to tell me. Next, it's just a free month. It's the 5th week, so it'll be some random topic. to be determined. I'm open to suggestions. So thanks everyone for being here, and I'll see you all next time. Okay, see ya.